has the session gone the way that you guys have seen it? You're closer to it than I am. But is this something that you expected, or have there been surprises?
Well, I think it is a unique session, Doug, in the sense that we, who've been here for quite a while covering legislature, in past years when you had an election year session, which we are in right now, there was often the feeling that an election year session, lawmakers are reluctant to get into areas that are considered divisive, polarizing, controversial, because they know that they're going to go before voters later in the year, and they want to sort of have a relatively tame session. Now, admittedly, sometimes we've seen through the legislature, the Florida House can be a little bit more of a strident body, going forward with some issues. We've often seen years where the House maybe proposed some of the more, remarkable, controversial bills during a session, but they all seem to fade in the Senate. The Senate toned them down, killed them, ignored them. This year, however, we are seeing both the House and Senate moving very forward on a lot of legislation that would be considered pretty divided in this divided state of Florida. We're going to talk more about it, but we've seen legislation that would regulate how race is taught in schools. It would allow the opportunity to, in the workplace, for employees to potentially sue an employer because they didn't like the way the diversity program was presented, or that they felt singled out by topics that were discussed. We're seeing the much talked about "Don't Say Gay" bill that is advancing in the House and Senate now. So, and of course, not even to mention we have a new restriction on abortion in Florida that is about to become law, undoubtedly, that would restrict from 24 weeks to 15 weeks the number of weeks of pregnancy that an abortion could be done. So that is a remarkable decades-long change that in state law. So there's some wild stuff out there. I think you're seeing the ruling Republican Party in the legislature really appealing to a base that wants these kind of out there issues, how they're going to play when they go before voters, legislators that that are not exclusively part of their base. We're going to have to wait till November to find out the results of how this legislation plays before voters. But that's the kind of year it's been. It's a very atypical election year.
James, that's an understatement. George F. Will wasn't talking about the Florida legislature when he wrote this last week, but he said contemporary politics, which is simultaneously sinister and silly, can leave you in tears or in stitches. And that basically sums up the Florida House. This has been unlike any other session I've covered, and I've been in town since the mid-1980s. This is a Lord of the Flies session. This is policy making that you would expect from a group of adolescents. It's like, we have power. Who can we attack? They targeted women. They targeted minorities. They targeted workers. This is a vindictive session. This is something that I've never seen, and I never expected from the Florida legislature.
I'm gonna switch gears for a minute and ask you. I mean, Florida's a growing state. We're the third largest state. We've got some real life issues. What, in your view, has not been addressed that should be addressed out of this legislature?
Well, one of the things. Oh, go ahead, James.
Well, one thing is water. We have a clean water crisis in Florida. We have pediatricians telling parents, and we have veterinarians telling dog owners, don't let your dogs go into the streams or springs or lakes because they're too polluted. There's something like 20,000 people on the Agency for Peoples with Disabilities list for a developmental care. These are the most vulnerable and the sickest people among us. And there are 20,000 individuals waiting for care that the state apparently does not have money to take care of. And some of these folks, something like 30 or 40% of these folks have been on that waiting list, that APD waiting list, for a decade. We have an affordable housing crisis. We have a property insurance crisis going on right now. Thousands of homeowners losing their property insurance for their homes because of the insurance crisis. And these are the issues that I think that affect people on a daily basis and include the most vulnerable among us that are just simply being ignored to score these partisan points in the culture wars.